What if I told you that emotions could spread quickly like a plague? That sadness, misfortune, and even bad luck could be as contagious as any disease? This story isn't just about scandal and power. It is a stern warning about the invincible forces that can cling to us, the emotional states that infect our own destinies if we are not careful who we let into our orbit. Our story begins in 1813 in Limerick, Ireland, with a girl named Marie Gilbert. Little did anyone know that this young woman was destined for a life of dazzling highs and dramatic lows. Fast forward to the 1840s, Marie arrived in the glittering city of Paris with dreams of becoming a star. To sound more exotic, she reinvents herself as Lola Monter, claiming to be a fiery flamenco dancer with Spanish roots. But the Parisian audience weren't exactly blown away by her dancing. By 1845, Lola's career was sinking fast. To survive in the cutthroat world of Paris, she made a bold decision. She became a courtesan. And let's just say she was incredibly successful at it. Now, Lola had her sights set on something bigger than just survival. She wanted to revive her dancing career, and there was only one man who could help her: Alexandre Dujardin. Alexandre Dujardin, the powerful owner and drama critic of the newspaper with the largest circulation in Paris. Lola was a woman who knew what she wanted, and she wasn't afraid to go after it. She investigated Dujardin's routine and discovered his daily morning ride. Being an excellent horsewoman herself, she staged a little accidental encounter. One chance meeting turned into daily rides, and soon Lola had charmed her way into Dujardin's life and his apartment. For a while, they were genuinely happy. With Dujardin's influence, Lola's dancing career started to see a glimmer of hope. Despite the potential damage to his reputation, Dujardin was madly in love with Lola. He even told his friends he planned to marry her in the spring. But there was a secret Lola was keeping. She was still married legally to an Englishman who she had run away to get secretly married to years earlier. Though Dujardin was deeply in love, his life began to unravel. His business fortune took a turn for the worse, and his influential friends started avoiding him. Then came the fateful night of a party. Dujardin went alone after a quarrel with Lola, who he refused to take along. Fueled by alcohol and perhaps defending Lola's honor, Dujardin drunkenly insulted Jean-Baptiste Rosemont de Bouval, a highly respected drama critic. The next morning, Bouvalon challenged him to a duel. Bouvalon was known as one of the best shots in France. Dujardin's attempts to apologize were futile. The duel took place, and in a tragic instant, one of Paris society's most promising young men was killed. Heartbroken and facing the consequences, Lola left Paris. But her story was far from over. In 1846, Lola Monter found herself in Munich, Bavaria, and this time her target was even bigger: King Ludwig I himself. Lola, the ever strategist, quickly figured out the best way to reach the king was through his aide-de-camp, Count Otto von Rechbeck, a man known for his appreciation of beautiful women. Just like in Paris, Lola staged another accidental encounter. Riding by Rechbeck's cafe, she dramatically fell from her horse, landing right at his feet. The Count was instantly enchanted. He rushed to her aid and promised to introduce her to King Ludwig. Rechbeck arranged an audience, but when Lola arrived at the king's anteroom, she overheard Ludwig saying he was too busy to meet some favor-seeking stranger. Lola wasn't one to take no for an answer. She pushed past the guards and barged into the king's room, and in a moment of pure audacity, the front of her dress somehow came undone, revealing her bare dress to the astonished king. Well, that certainly got his attention. 55 hours later, Lola made her debut on the Bavarian stage. The reviews were terrible, but that didn't deter the bewitched King Ludwig. Ludwig was completely smitten. He started appearing in public with Lola on his arm, showering her with gifts and even writing poetry for her. Quite a change for a known miser. He bought and furnished a lavish apartment for her, and overnight, Lola Montey became the most famous and powerful woman in Bavaria. But with great power came a distinct lack of restraint. Lola's behavior became increasingly erratic. Incidents like these infuriated the upstanding citizens of Bavaria, but Ludwig was blinded by his infatuation. He stood by Lola, even making her a Bavarian citizen. Anyone in the king's entourage who dared to criticize Lola was promptly fired. While the Bavarians' love for their king turned into disrespect, Lola was elevated to countess, had a new palace built for her, and began to meddle in politics, advising Ludwig on policy. She was the most influential force in the kingdom, treating government ministers with utter contempt. The result? Riots erupted throughout Bavaria. A once peaceful land was on the brink of civil war, with students everywhere chanting, "Raus mit Lola," meaning "out with Lola." By February 1848, the pressure became too much for Ludwig to bear. With immense sadness, he ordered Lola to leave Bavaria immediately. She left, but not before securing a hefty payout. For the next 5 weeks, the Bavarians' anger was directed at their once beloved king. And in March of that year, Ludwig I was forced to abdicate his throne. Lola Montey had single-handedly brought down a monarch. Lola Montey then set her sights on England. More than anything, she craved respectability. Despite still being legally married to her English elopement, she pursued George Trafford Heald, a promising young army officer from an influential family. Heald was 10 years younger than Lola and could have had his pick of the prettiest and wealthiest young women in English society. Yet, he fell completely under her spell, and they were married in 1849. But Lola's past soon caught up with her. She was arrested for bigamy. True to form, Lola skipped bail, and she and Heald fled to Spain. Their relationship quickly turned sour. They quarreled violently, and on one occasion, Lola even slashed Heald with a knife. Eventually, she drove him away, returning to England. Heald found his army career ruined and was ostracized by society. He moved to Portugal, where he tragically died in a boating accident just a few months later. Lola's tumultuous life continued across the Atlantic. In 1853, she moved to California and married a man named Pat Hall. Their relationship was, unsurprisingly, just as stormy as all her others. She soon left Hall for another man. Hall, heartbroken and lost, turned to drink and fell into a deep depression, dying just 4 years later, still a young man. But the whirlwind that was Lola Montey wasn't done with surprises. At the age of 41, she underwent a dramatic transformation. She gave away all her extravagant clothes and jewelry and turned to religion. Lola toured America, lecturing on religious topics, dressed in white and wearing a halo-line headgear. 2 years later, in 1861, the extraordinary life of Lola Montey, having destroyed the life of many men, came to an end.